Hey guys, this is On Productions, aka 47 and I gotta move this thing. There you go. And I'm back in Hakuouki, Demon of the Fleeing Blossom, part 4 it is. And I just made myself a cup of tea, and then my dad made me clean my room, and now the tea is cold and I'm sad. It's so hard to be me. I watched the shadows drift up my wall as the orange light of the sun painted my room the color of autumn leaves. How long am I going to do this? Solitude was providing the detrimental of any sort of continued optimism. All my thoughts eventually turned dark and hopeless. It was depressing, but most of all, it was frustrating. How could I let myself be discouraged so easily? Fairly easily, actually. I'd been swept up in a frightening world I didn't understand and couldn't possibly control. I can't possibly figure out what's happening to Father if I'm stuck here. Only Hichikata can give me permission to leave, and he's gone. All I could do was wait. Lamenting things I couldn't change wouldn't improve my situation and would arguably make it worse. Still, there was at least one thing I had to be thankful for. At least they've all been nice to me. I knew I couldn't trust the men of the Shinsengumi completely. They were, after all, men who could take life in the blink of an eye. It would be all too easy for the next life they took to be mine. They're nice men, deep down, right? Has anyone called you gullible yet? My voice froze in my throat. I turned slowly to find Ogita standing behind me. What are you doing here? Oh, you didn't notice me? Well, it's my turn to keep watch. Of course, I was under surveillance, which meant... Did you hear everything I said? He said nothing, only smiled and blinked. He heard me. He had definitely heard me. I wanted to scream, but before I could open my mouth, Saito stepped out from behind the door. I think that's enough fraternizing Soshi. Were you here the whole time too? I arrived only moments ago. Oh, thank goodness! I praised my hand. I'm sorry for screaming like that. I'm sorry for skipping a frame. It's nothing, and at any rate, it isn't as if you were saying anything that might cause you trouble for you. Then he had heard me. True, I didn't say anything bad, but still, it's embarrassing being caught talking to oneself. I was so embarrassed. Saito looked from me to Okita and back, and his brows drew together, almost weirdly. I came to tell you that dinner is ready, but, have I interrupted something? Oh, no, nothing at all. I shook my head emphatically. I had intended to wait until you and Soshi finished your discussion, but he let the words hang in the air, but his eyes said that he'd determined we'd continue forever if he didn't interrupt. I had opened my mouth to say something, not sure what, when Heisuke shut through the door. The moment he saw us, however, his face fell. Hey, guys, dinner time! I apologize, Heisuke. He'll be there presently. Yeah, you too, Chizuru. Hurry up. Alright, it's gonna be gone by the time you get there. Sorry, Toto. I'll be there as soon as I can. He turned to leave, but stopped as he reached the door. I saw him purse his lips for a moment, and then he spoke. You can drop the whole Toto thing, okay? Just call me Heisuke. Everybody else does. Are you sure? Yeah, why not? I mean, we're about the same age anyway. Alright, I'll do that then, Heisuke. He turned and gave me a wide grin. Great, sounds better already. Shall we go? Yay! You're late. The moment we stepped into the dining hall, Nakigura and Harada looked up at us. You kids are late. Who's gonna answer to my crying stomach? You mean growling Shin? Really, he's so simple sometimes. You guys ought to apologize to my stomach. He wanted to dig in, but I said no, we gotta wait for him. You're such a softy, Shin. Alright guys, it's time to eat, and that means every man for himself. Man, that's barely enough here to feed a kid, let alone a man. So, I'll just have to take yours. Survival of the fittest, this food is mine. Hey, why do you always steal my food? Ha, it's 'cause the difference in size, kid. I got a bigger body, but that means I need more food. Well, I'm still growing, old man, so I gotta eat more too. Sorry you had to see this, Chisudu. They're always like this. I've gotten used to it. Is acceptance of such insanity not somewhat frightening? That food is mine. Why aren't you taking anything? Yeah, I'm good. I get too full when I'm starting... If I get too full, then I'm starting to get slow. Hey, what do you mean slow? Whatever, I'm taking that. Go for it. As long as I get got a little sake to sip, I'm good. Then I guess I'm going with sake too. Don't worry about being a freeloader or anything to do. Just eat your little heart out, okay? I know. I can't help but feel a little bad, though. Well, if you let that get to you, you're gonna lose. You have to protect what's yours. Okay. It was actually rather fun to have dinner with such a strange group of men. I'd eaten alone for so long that to do so with others was frightening and exhilarating all at once. See, there's that smile. You ought to do that more often. We aren't gonna hurt you. Harada. His mouth curled up into an honest smile of his own. Had I really looked so down? I don't know, but I'm gonna take the music down a little. There we go. Now I'm more happy with it. Perhaps they were all trying to cheer me up. I wasn't quite sure how to feel. There was a part of me that felt bad, while the other part felt a certain amount of joy. The joy seemed to be winning out, however, and I was smiling to myself when Inoue stepped in from the hall. Gentlemen, do you have a moment? As usual, his voice was warm, but his eyes had a level of solemn sadness I hadn't seen before, at least during our thus far brief acquaintance. The warmth of the room disappeared almost immediately. I've just received word from Osaka. Sanan has been gravely injured in battle. What? They all went quiet. Inoue continued. Sanan had gone to investigate a report of several run-in harassing a cloth merchant. He managed to drive them off, but not before being wounded by the run-in. Is he going to be alright? It wasn't his sword arm that was wounded. He's almost certain to survive, but wielding a blade will be difficult for him. Oh, thank goodness! Let out a breath that I hadn't realized I'd been holding, but it seemed the rest of the room didn't share my relief. Should be returning here in a few days. Now, please excuse me, I must speak with Kendo. He turned as he spoke, his last words delivered over his shoulder, and was gone. It was Saito who eventually broke the awkward silence. A sword is not made to be carried in a single hand. If his injury is severe, he may never carry a blade again. Oh, at last I understood. Yes, Sanan was alive, but without the ability to wield a sword. Sanan the man had survived the encounter with the Ronin, but Sanan the warrior had not. Fighting with a single hand could mean less strength behind his blows. Against an opponent of similar skill, he would almost certainly lose. Of course. Fighting with one hand would be fighting at half strength. Even a skilled warrior would have trouble. Okita sighed. If push comes to shove, he'll have to take it. I don't think Sanan's just going to give up. Don't jinx him, Soji. It's gonna look bad if the officer starts joining the corps. Huh? Wait, that didn't make any sense. But what do you mean, corps? Isn't that the Shinsengumi? I didn't understand what the corps was. It wasn't the Shinsengumi itself? But the way they said it, that couldn't be referring to the Shinsengumi. Well, normally, yeah, you might call the Shinsengumi the elite volunteer corps. We talk about the corps. When we talk about the corps, though, Hey, Skip! Before I could move, Harada was on his feet and halfway across the room. I barely had time to gasp before he drove his fist into Heisuke. Ow! Heisuke, are you alright? Nakagura sighed. Sana, you're overreacting. Heisuke, think before you open that damn mouth. His eyes looked cold and hard as he turned to look straight at me. But it was clear Heisuke had told me something he shouldn't have, but what? Sorry. After a moment, Harada gave the younger man a curt nod of apology, and Heisuke responded with a quick, pained smile. Nah, I should have been watching what I was saying. Still, Sana, you start throwing those things around way too easily. His punch had hit with enough force to knock a lesser man out cold, but Heisuke seemed only slightly the worse for wear. It had been clearer that I was not among normal people. That's all you're going to hear about this particular topic, Chizuru. I'm sure you're curious, but we can't tell you anything else, so don't ask. His voice was friendly enough, but his eyes gave his words a cold weight that made me almost feel uncomfortable. But how are we supposed to just drop it? Like this, just don't talk about it. The corpse that Heisuke was talking about are meant to be pitied. Okita's voice was flat, emotionless. His eyes were grim, and there was a sudden chill melancholy about him. I couldn't bring myself to say anything more. Thankfully, Nakagura stepped in to break the silence. It's nothing you need to worry yourself about. You don't have to get all worked up. I was only a guest in their house, not a warrior of the Shinsengumi. I didn't need to know the truth behind whatever secrets the Shinsengumi kept. I'd known that from the beginning. That knowledge was little comfort, however. Put it from your mind. Involving yourself in our affairs will put you in greater danger. I bit my lip and kept silent. The wall between us was almost a physical thing, and it was far too large an obstacle for me to defeat easily. I finished my dinner in sad silence, excused myself, and returned to my room. I had a great deal to think about. The Shinsengumi, I knew the Shinsengumi, of course. Their name meant Elite Volunteer Corps. But this corpse they'd mentioned, it seemed to be something different. So Sanan is part of the Shinsengumi, but he shouldn't be part of the corpse? That way they said it, it seemed like this corpse was another entity inside the Shinsengumi. No, I wasn't supposed to think about those things. I was going to get myself in trouble if I stuck my nose where it didn't belong. If I saw or heard the wrong things, I could end up dead. If I die, I'll have a hard time looking for my father. No shit, Sherlock. There were people who cared about me, and my death would no doubt sadden them. With that in mind, I did my best to put the day's events out of my head and climbed into my thin futon. July 1864. Wow, that's a long time. Wasn't it January last? Wow, it's been a long time. It was later that day that Hichikara called to me. Excuse me. I'd been relieved to find Okita and Heisuke had been summoned along with me. A private conversation with only myself and Hichikara would have been cause for a significant case of nerves. I was still trying to puzzle out what to say when Hichikara began to speak, his voice cold as tempered steel. You can leave the compound. Really? His announcement was so sudden that I found I couldn't contain my enthusiasm. Hichikara, however, retained his composure. You're going to be accompanying whoever's on duty. You jump when they say jump and die when they say die. Are we clear? Yes, sir! At least I would be able to go outside. I would finally be able to begin searching for my father. My answers wouldn't show themselves immediately, I knew, but at least I was free to look for them. Soshi, Heisuke, you're on patrol today, right? Oh, I get it now. That's why you pulled us in here, right? The confusion that had been on his face since I'd entered lifted at last. I think it's going to be Soshi's turn this time, though. The 1st Division's doing rounds today, isn't it? Yes, Heisuke and the 8th are going out tonight, so I think he has a point. She'll be safer during the afternoon. He looked at Heisuke and gave me a quick wink. Righty, now I made another cup of tea, and I'm happy again. There we go. Don't forget, if you run, I'll kill you. And if you get jumped by running, I'm not sticking around to pull your ass out of the fire, okay? He wasn't being serious, but Hijikata turned his cold glare on Okita and frowned. No, it's not okay, you idiot. Where the hell do you think I'm sending her with you? Why I'm sending? Okita's only response was a short snort of a laugh. I won't run. I knew he wasn't being serious, but I couldn't stand to keep my mouth shut. When I came here, we made a deal, I promised. The Shinsengumi would help me find my father, and I would keep quiet and not run away. And I still wanted to find him just as much as I had the day I first met the Shinsengumi. I'll keep my promise. So please, keep yours. I gave Okita a short bow, never taking my eyes off his face. The smirk that had been his vein when I'd begun had shrunk to something smaller and a little, and more than a little awkward. My apologies, I guess I underestimated you. You should realize, though, there's no way to know what could happen out there. If you come with us, you're putting yourself in danger. If that's alright with you, then feel free to join us on our rounds. Even I knew Kyoto was not safe. But I didn't care. I had to find my father. At that moment, any possible danger seemed immaterial. The Choshu have been acting up. Another clan, I know. And acting up. We don't know what they're up to, but chances are it's bad for us. I'd rather not be sending you out. He seemed to be almost talking to himself, but his tone was stern and thoughtful. The soldiers of Choshu domain were part of the Imperial Nationalist Party. They had increasingly been turning to force in their pursuit of their goals. The Shinsengumi, on the other hand, were loyal to the shogun. Since their masters were at odds, the Shinsengumi and the Choshu domain were enemies. It occurred to me that the increased activity of the Choshu domain had likely made it difficult for the Shinsengumi to shoulder a burden such as me. Why are you giving me permission to leave the compound at a time like this? Oh shit, goddammit. Kodo hasn't gone back to Edo, and we've heard that a couple people saw someone around Kyoto. It might not be him, but it matches his description. Besides, I've kept you locked up for almost half a year. Holy shit! The Choshu are a threat, but if it wasn't them, it'd be something else. I'll let you out sometime, or you'll never find anything. It wasn't what I expected to hear from him. He was right, they had postponed my search for my father for quite some time. What I hadn't expected was he would give any thought to my feelings on the matter. Thank you very much. I bowed as I spoke, not sure what else I could do to express my gratitude. Hijikata only turned back to his work. Besides, plenty of our guys aren't feeling so hot these days. We aren't exactly in top condition, are we? Heisuke's joking didn't seem to appeal to Hijikata, who only frowned more deeply. Well, it has been awfully hot lately. And it certainly had been. Day after day, the sun burned down on Kyoto from a cloudless sky, and all of the rooms in the compound were so humid that I felt dizzy as soon as I stepped inside. I'd heard that the heat had been too much for some of the Shinsegumi's soldiers, and they'd taken ill. If you want to go, you can go. You have my permission. Alright! I sat there for a moment and considered my options. There was something in his words and the manner that told me he didn't want me to leave the compound. Still, if I was with Okita or Heisuke, I had no doubt that I'd be safe and well protected. On the other hand, my presence could be easily undue a burden to them. What was I to do? Leave and search for Daddy. Because then we're with our Okita. Oh my gosh! The streets were packed with people. Nothing strange in a busy city, of course, but I could feel my heart beating faster all the same. Oh, now he's in his uniform. It's so cute in that uniform. Don't get too excited there, Chizuru. We're out here for business, not fun, remember? His wry smile was a friendly warning, but was a friendly warning, but I shrunk back, cowed, and looked up back at him meekly. The city is just so busy. I guess I couldn't help myself. Getting worked up over a busy street was a silly thing for anyone to do, and we both knew it. But I'd been inside for so long, just the sight of crowds was enough to get my blood pumping. Okita looked down at me and grinned. Well, the GN's festival's coming up. Things are a little more lively than usual, I'll give you that. Of course, some of those nationalists running are acting pretty suspicious too. What I'm saying is, watch yourself, alright? Okay. We were walking down Kyoto's largest street, accompanied by the 1st Division. No one came within a few yards of us. As we walked, they stepped away the moment their eyes caught the bright blue of the Shinsengumi's jackets. Even the people of Kyoto feared the Shinsengumi. Excuse me. I paused every so often to ask some of the less intimidated passerby if they might have seen my father. The tea is giving me life. I'm looking for someone. He's in his 40s and speaks with an Edo accent. His head is shaved, but he looks friendly. He's a doctor too. Well, people with their heads shaved are normally really evil, you see. After several regretful apologies, I came across someone who claimed to have seen the man matching my description. Oh yeah, I think I might have seen that guy a while back over at Massa's. As he spoke, he pointed towards a store selling wood and charcoal. Thank you so much! Of course, I told myself, it could be someone who looks like my father. Then again, perhaps it was my father. Okita caught my eye and gave me a stern look. He opened his mouth, presumably to reprehend me, when... You there, you running! Give us the name of your lord if you indeed even serve one. The cry went up from one of the Shinsengumi soldiers, and Okita turned, his mouth tightening into a thin line. Well, shit, I guess they would choose the worst possible time to stir up trouble, wouldn't they? His hand had dropped his sword and he ran towards the commotion. The townsfolk screamed and ran like leaves before a gale. Wow! In sudden press of fleeing citizens, I found myself pulled away from Okita. For a moment I panicked, but soon realized it was best. That it was best. If I stayed close, he would have been forced to keep half his attention on me. I didn't want to distract him, so I ran to a nearby alley to watch. Once the situation was resolved, I could make my way back to the 1st Division. Hey kid, come over here. You don't want to get yourself caught up in that. Huh? I paused for a moment. A strange man invited me into his store. Not strange on the face of it, perhaps, but I'd been warned so many times to be on my guard. I was about to politely refuse when I realized which store it was, the one the man earlier had pointed to. Excuse me, but is this Matthew's? Yes, it is, he nodded. Great, you see, I'm looking for someone and... Mr. Kimion, I just saw that cake with Okita and the Shinsengumi captain. What? What? Shinsengumi, run for it! There was a scramble for the door, and in a moment the store was empty of customers. What? True, I had been accompanying the Shinsengumi, but the reaction of the store's customers seemed excessive. You still have the worst luck, don't you? Still, I guess you could say the same thing about them. And me. He gave me a small, unconcerned shrug and leapt through the door of the shop. Matsu exploded with sound of swordplay, with men swearing and scrambling across furniture of opposition. What? What on earth had happened? When we returned to the Shinsengumi headquarters, Sanan had a number of words for us. They weren't particularly pleasant. We had been kneeling for some time as the colonel berated us before Okita finally spoke up. You don't have to lose your head over it, Sanan. After all, we arrested a couple of Chosho people. When the fight was over, we discovered a massive arms cache and confiscated the entire thing. No one had bothered to explain to me what was happening, however I was utterly lost. Not something to lose my head over. My head is right where it belongs, Okita. Perhaps you should inquire after yours. The man claiming to be Masi Kiyomon was in truth Shuntaro Furukataka, a Choshu spy. I assure you, you were aware that the Shinsengumi was allowing him to operate in the hope of acquiring the enemy's intelligence. Yes, I was, but we didn't have any choice this time. We had to bring in him. His excuse was weak, and his frown suggested he knew it. Well, it's not like it was a total bust. Like Soshi said, they did arrest some guys. Yeah, but don't you feel bad for Shimada and Yamasaki? They were staking out the place to keep an eye on Furutaka. The corners of Heisuke's mouth twitched into a momentary smile. Shimada interrupted before he could continue. We appreciate your concern, Todo, but nobody needs to lose any sleep on our account. We're getting nowhere with Masu's in the last few days anyway. Okita did us a favor. Yamasaki nodded in silent agreement. Yamasaki! I really love Yamasaki. It's good to see you, Yamasaki. I've missed you. Furutaka's arrest is over and done. You won't hear any complaints from us about it. Man, you two are the definition of stoic and reasonable. Soshi, on the other hand, it didn't look like Nakagura was going to let Okita get away without thoroughly rubbing his face in his mistake. At last I felt I could remain quiet no longer. It was my fault. Some running were causing trouble, so I tried to get out of the way. I got separated from Okita in the crowd and didn't go right back to him. Before I realized what was going on, I was in front of Masu's, and someone was shouting about how I was with the Shinsengumi. But who was tasked with looking after you? He glared at me, his eyes hard and angry, and I felt my throat dry up. The captain of our first division can't keep track of a single charge. Is this the best the Shinsengumi can do? When I first met him, Sennan had been nice, but if a little quiet. After his injury, however, it was as if he's become an entirely different man. I told her she could go. They were only following orders. Sennan looked up as Hijikata walked into the room. He gave the commander a tight, wry smile, but only got a peaceful, impartial glance in return. If you're here, that means you're done interrogating Furutaka, right? Hijikata didn't as much as blink. They're going to wait for a day when the wind picks up, then set Kyoto on fire and kidnap the emperor while everyone else was losing their shit. So they said at least. His voice was calm and measured, but we all felt the import of his words. Burn down the city? Those Choshu guys are crazier than I thought. He followed his comment with a rude gesture that made me blush involuntarily. So they just want to kidnap the emperor. Seems a little contradictory for a bunch of guys who call themselves the imperialists. Whatever their reasons, we can hardly ignore their plans. They're probably meeting tonight. We need to get ready to move out. Understood, Commander. Alright, finally, I'm getting the chills. They didn't all display the same level of professionalism, but each man there made it clear that he was prepared. As they quieted down, Hijikata turned towards me as if he had just only noticed my presence. We did get some information on Kodo. Apparently he visited Masu's with some men from Choshu. What? He was with the Choshu? But my father was loyal to the Shogunate. That was why the Shinsengumi had agreed to help me look for him. But the Choshu are at odds with the Shogun. Why would my father be with them? But no one had an answer for me. Well, shit. They can hate us. They can hate us a lot. Preparations. Wait, you know what? I actually think this is a great place to end the episode. I will see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed it and stuff. And bye.